Okay, hello guys. So it's April 7th, and I have not even the slightest want to read Twilight right now. I don't really want to do anything but sleep. I don't know why I decided to start Twilight, and I have no energy to do it, but here I am, sitting down, reading it. I will say, it's so weird to read this because I'm like reading it in Kristen Stewart's voice. Like I can hear Kristen Stewart reading the preface and it's so awkward. But I also can't remember like how I even pictured any of these people to look. All I see are the actors now, so luckily Robert Pattinson's good to look at. I want to talk about a couple of things that I already didn't like about Twilight. Before I like got really into the book and started my opinions on changing, so you guys could actually have authentic change or non-change of my thoughts. So one thing I really did not like, I'll try to go from books like in chronological order. All the obvious things. I didn't understand the need for him to sparkle. I didn't really understand the obsession Bella had with him, because it was just like, he's not just a person, he's a vampire, but at the same time, you didn't know he was a vampire, he was just a person. Like, I don't know, I just didn't understand the infatuation that she had. Like, I get like seeing someone and be like, oh, he's so hot and everything, but she was kind of off her rocker. Something else I didn't particularly like, moving on from the first book, with the second book, I thought the second book was completely unnecessary. I didn't ever understand why New Moon had to be a book. I honestly feel like Twilight should have been a trilogy and just should have been the first book happened and the second and third books kind of combined each other, because I don't feel like the third book really mattered in a sense. Like Victoria as a antagonist, I understood, but I just don't understand why she couldn't have done all those things in the second book, since the second book's already humongous. The third book's already humongous, so I don't really understand why all that couldn't have happened in the second book, because literally all you got in the second book is Jacob changing and Bella moping around for like months, and then you're introduced to Victoria, but not until the very end. And so I just feel like it didn't need to be a book. It was kind of like a filler book to me. Instead of there being filler chapters, it was like a whole book for the Twilight series to be fillers, and it made no sense. And it was just boring, so yeah. Moving on to the third book, something I dislike far as structure is when I first read the series and I got to the point where we finally got to like hear Jacob's thoughts, I would sometimes mix up reading Jacob and Bella because they literally had the same voice. I don't think Stephanie Meyer did a good job with writing with different voices. I think they sounded exactly the same. And unless Jacob said sure, sure, sometimes I'd be like, oh my god, is it Bella or Jacob talking? Like, what is this? I also, like most people, didn't like the love triangle. I don't think it did anything for the plot, and it wasn't even like a teeter-totter effect, like, like, oh, maybe she'll choose him, maybe she won't. Like, it was always going to be Edward. And so I feel like Jacob and Bella could have just been platonic, and that would have sufficed the whole premise of Twilight. I didn't like the backstories of the vampires, only in aid of Bella and Edward's love story. A lot of times when you got the backstories of anyone, it was just because Bella was whining about wanting to be a vampire, or Rosalie trying to explain to Bella why she wouldn't want her to become a vampire, and why Edward and her virginity and all this other stuff. It always like kind of like it was centralized around Bella and Edward instead of just giving us the information that we wanted. And also it was kind of just glossed over, like, oh hey, Rosalie was murdered and raped, or oh hey, by the way, Jasper was a part of an army, by the way, Carlisle started the whole Cullen clan and it was also friends with the Volturi for years. It really didn't like do anything. So I wasn't a big fan of that. And then what else? Getting on Volturi, because I could write essays on why I hated the arc of the Volturi. The Volturi was supposed to be this big bass, the Thanos, the Voldemort, the whatever of the Twilight world, and they didn't do anything. They like killed one girl and that's it. Well, they killed a couple people, but that's it. They really didn't do anything. For them to want Carlisle, Alice, Edward, and Bella, they sure did not do anything. Like, they went just by a vision Alice had that, here's my thing. The whole point of Alice's visions were, with any one change of heart, her visions could change. So how did Arrow know that 100% it was going to happen if someone didn't change their mind, if someone didn't leave, if someone did not use the power? Like, it doesn't make any sense. And then the Volturi found out about all these other people with powers. Oh, my food's done. And still didn't do anything. Like, what kind of big bad is that? Like, I feel like it was just so, like, Victoria was a worse person than Volturi were. Like, it made no sense. What else did I really freaking hate? Cop. He wasn't stopping when they were trying to figure out who killed his friend. You think he's gonna stop finding his daughter? It made no freaking sense. And you married the town freaks. Like, no one is going to buy that. Like, your parents were not just gonna let you leave. Like, it made no sense. And okay, the last thing I will preface, because I can't remember too much because it's been so long since I read it. I think a big one that a lot of people have a problem with is the Renesmee and Jacob. That's her name, right? Okay, let me stop my food. Okay, so real quick before I go eat, the Renesmee and Jacob story arc I felt was so stupid, and what I wish would have happened with Jacob was his whole pack had their own arc, and I really feel like adding Leah to his pack was stupid since they did nothing with her. I thought that the reason she and Jacob were really connecting would have been that they could have gotten together, which could have been cute. I loved Leah and Jacob together. I don't know if anyone else felt that way, but I felt that way. And so yeah, so honestly, Leah like having that whole side story with Emily and Sam was stupid. Like, there was no point of her having pretty much the same heartbreak as Edward if it didn't do anything. Like, she still had to like live her whole life, like knowing that. I mean, yeah, she left the pack and is with Jacob's pack, but she still had to mope around. And even she says that the worst part about it was everyone could read her thoughts when she was sad, when she was happy, when she was anything. That doesn't change when she moves packs. It's just a different pack now. So I don't know. And also, Jacob's whole side arc of Posey being alpha male, I would have wanted to know more about that. Like, the romance in Twilight was not enough to really guide the plot, and when she tried to put other things into it, I don't think she delved enough into it. So those are my thoughts prior to reading this book. Those are my 14-year-old thoughts, I guess. So I'm just gonna go read and I'll get back to you after I've gotten somewhat done. Okay, so I am a pretty good amount. I can take off my glasses, I know there's glare. I'm a pretty good amount through Twilight. And can I just say one thing that I did not like, I guess as a preteen, because I was a preteen when I read this, that I didn't really pay attention to, is that Bella's kind of mean to Charlie in the beginning, and then like not even like for a reason. Like, she's always talking about how like something makes her uncomfortable, like, and I understand like whatever makes you uncomfortable, but like a weird part in the book where she's like talking about how like he has all these old photos of her, and I'm just like, well, he's your father, so duh. And then like talking about oh, and he has pictures of her mom, and it makes her uncomfortable because he's obviously not over it. And I'm just like, okay, so I have 4 siblings. My parents have not been together in like 10 years. And let me tell you something. Both my parents have pictures of each other. Like from when they were just dating. Like, your mom just randomly picked up one day, took you, and left him because she isn't an adult. Like, I've never understood that. Like, Renee is not an adult to me. You can have a simple conversation with your husband, and okay, maybe she did have a conversation. Maybe she had thousands of conversations with Charlie, but it's not even like told, because in the whole Twilight series, you just get little itsy bitsy parts of the marriage of Charlie and Renee. And my whole thing about that is just like, I could understand just glossing over it if it's not important, but the whole reason she ends up in Forks is because they got divorced and her mom got remarried, and now she's like going to travel for baseball. So it's kind of important to tell me what the fuck is going on. Like, okay, so your parents got divorced because Renee felt trapped, and that's it. Like, I could understand like running away from Charlie if he was just this horrid person, but Charlie is, in retrospect, one of the nicer people in the Twilight Saga, so I don't get it. But whatever, I digress. I'm not that deep into Twilight because I've been reading my book club book, and at least trying to read it, and I have to read Cassandra for English. Where is it? There it goes. Which is this one, by Florence Nightingale. So I have to read that for class. So I've been taking a break from Twilight. But yeah, I'm also at the point where she's like obsessed with Edward, and that's only like 40 pages in, which I get, like, infatuation completely, but Twilight's insta-lovey. I know that for a fact, and I knew that even when I was a preteen. But we're gonna see. I will say though, am I the only person that thinks movie Edward and book Edward are so different? Like, book Edward had personality, and movie Edward had Robert Pattinson's face. That was like the only thing going for him. Anyway, I'm hungry and I have to go to Marshall to take something back, and then I think I'm going to Panera with my friend. So I'm gonna go do that, and yeah, I'll get back to you after I've read some more Twilight.